Hello and welcome, this is EagleEye621, and what you see in front of me may just be the rarest block in Minecraft. This block is so rare that odds are it has never generated in any of the worlds that you have played. Now, it's not what you may be thinking it is. If you've seen something like this before pop up on the Reddit or in a different YouTube video, but do feel free to take a guess in the comments down below. While you're there, also be sure to hit that subscribe button, that like button, and ring that bell. Let's talk about some rare blocks for a second. As we have in this chest over here, when you think rare blocks, a lot of times you start by thinking about diamonds, and then maybe you're thinking about the new ancient debris with all of your netherite. And now maybe you think about emerald ore because it only generates in certain biomes. Maybe something like a sponge, which only generates in those ocean monuments. Or something like a nether star with the beacon. You start thinking more about non-renewables like this sponge, like this bell. Or maybe you go, end portal frames are pretty rare. You can't make those, although you can destroy them with my bedrock breaking technique, which I will link. Or these dragon heads are only available in the end cities, so those must be pretty rare. And then dragon egg. Well, there's only one of these in the game. This must be the most rare item. Now, I don't really consider this a block, but what we're talking about, I think, is more rare than these dragon eggs, which, by the way, you can do pretty easily without even redstone. And I'll link another video right in the iCard now. But what we're talking about is this block right here. And if you've guessed because you think you've seen this before, then odds are you're thinking that this is a mistextured grass block. But it is not a grass block. And if I press the F3 screen right here, you can see it's actually a mistextured mycelium block. And that's why this is so rare. This happening to grass is pretty uncommon to start with and may in itself be less common than a dragon egg. But this is so uncommon that it probably hasn't generated, as I said, in your world or any of your friends' world. Because in order for this to happen, what you need is a snow layer to land on top of a mycelium block. You can see that we have that right here. And then because the mycelium itself is so rare, only generating in the Mushroom Islands, and then snow on that is even more rare, and then mobs don't spawn in those islands, so you need to have an enderman manage to find their way over to a rare biome with a rare incident on top of it, and pick it up and then put it back down. That's why I said this has probably never happened in any of your worlds. Now, you can make this happen on purpose, but it is kind of annoying, and that's because of the process you have to go through, which you can kind of see in the background right here. Something like a dragon egg, once you get it or you duplicate them and have more, they become an item in your inventory that you can place where you want. But these blocks have to specifically be placed by the enderman. Now, there is a little bit of a cheat that you can do in your creative mode, and that's by grabbing one of these things. It is a debug stick, and the way that you get that is with a command. It's a give command, and you can give it to the player, and then, as I said, it is a debug stick, and now you have that. And with the debug stick, if you right click on the grass, this right here in the middle is podzol, which is even more rare than your grass, and looks the same, or your mycelium, which I believe is the most rare in the game. And I believe that, in fact, the grass might be third place, with the podzol being second, and the mycelium being your first place. You can't move them yourself. If you put a block on top, then you get very disappointed very quickly. And if you try and move it with a piston, for example, you will also find yourself to be extremely disappointed. So the only way to move these is to have the enderman move them for you. And what you're going to want to do is grab some of your mycelium. And as I said, you can do this with the podzol or the grass. Grab some snow layers, and I'll link to a iCard that has my snow farm, which is 72,000 snow layers per hour. Also no redstone. In case you're wondering, this does not work with the crimson and the warped blocks from the nether. You can see the textures don't change, and in fact, pretty soon the blocks will be converted into netherrack because this counts as something on top of them. So you can't use those. We can get rid of that. And you're going to want to grab, as I said, your block that you want to use. Grab some snow layers. And then it's a little bit of a preference between a boat and a minecart. And then you are going to need some endermen. So I have and you can see this is now netherrack. I have an overworld enderman farm that you can use to help you find endermen in the overworld, so you don't have to try and drag them through the end. And for a boat, and I'll use the grass, you just place some grass blocks down, and then you want to put your snow layers on top of that. And once you have all of your snow layers, and you can see the texture just changed when you put that on there, then you want to bring in your enderman on a boat, just the one, and this enderman can happily pick up the blocks from underneath him, as you can see has happened in all of these cases. This is what happens with dirt. It's nothing special, and this is why we're doing this now, because you'll see there's going to be a version issue pretty soon. And once the enderman has picked up the block, then obviously you can pilot the boat and bring that enderman with that block to wherever you want in order to hopefully have them place it down in the area that you want, which is kind of challenging in itself because they need to put it where you want, and we'll talk about that in a moment as well. Now, if you want to do this with a minecart, which may be a little bit more convenient if you're traveling any decent distance, and we can do this with the mycelium, is you want to make a little bit of a guardrail system, because on the minecart, it's much easier for them to pick it up from the side. We can place our rails down, and then convert all of this to the snow texture by placing those snow layers on top, and then just so it doesn't fall out, I did use the, here we go, we can put some snow layers here, and then we get our minecart, we get our enderman, and hopefully we get that enderman to sit in the, there we go, and look at that. Already grabbed one of the blocks for us, which is very nice. Now, you can also use the mob itself as a rare if you like collecting rares, and the best way to make sure that this enderman does not put that block down anywhere, which would destroy that, just keep them up in the air like this so there's nothing in range for them to put it down. Also, highly recommend that you name tag them, maybe a special name tag like that. Depending on the version you're in, when they pick up a block, they won't despawn anyways, but it's always good to name tag them just in case that does change, or in case you're in a version where that is not the case. Or you can put something like buttons on all of the blocks around it. If you want this guy to be in some sort of a cage, like a zoo, then just put buttons or string or something of that nature on the blocks, so they can't place them down. The last thing you want to do is collect a rare mob, like this enderman holding a rare block, only for them to put it down next to them, and now it's not really that special anymore. Now, if you want them to try and put this somewhere special, then you will also want to do that same idea. You want to make it impossible by putting those buttons or string on the blocks around the block you want them to place this down on. Now, it makes it extraordinarily difficult to make any sort of floor like this, because you can see that the enderman will pick up one of these blocks if you have some issue, but also the enderman can put that block on top of its neighbor. So if you're trying to make a floor of these blocks, which would be very impressive, then the enderman might just drop this block just down on top of this and destroy the one underneath it. And you can't put anything on top of this to protect it, because even if you grab a button to make it so that they can't put that on top, you can see that button converts it back. So you just have to get very lucky and be very patient in order to try and get this into any sort of a floor. Now, for these boats, there's another little trick that you should know if you don't. If you're trying to go uphill, then what you can do is use the piston to actually help you, because you would put the piston down there, and then when you're on the boat, you can have that boat lifted into the air and travel to the next block with your passenger. Now, as I said, if you're doing this from a longer distance, you are going to want to use rails, just because you can keep them in the air. With the boats, you do risk that they will just drop the block along the way, but if you keep them in a thin rail line with no guardrails around them, there's no place for them to put that until they get wherever it is that you're trying to go. Now, if you want to do this, you do need to do this now, and by now, I mean 1.16.1. Now, unfortunately, in 1.16.2, in the pre-releases, specifically pre-release 2, they've made it so that when the endermen pick up the block, it will just convert back to normal. So just like the dirt block with the snow is nothing special. If they pick up a grass block or a podzol block or a mycelium block with the snow layers on it, it'll just convert back to that normal block. If this is already in your world, it will not go away. And if the enderman is already holding on to it, it also won't convert. But you won't be able to make any more of them. So if you do like collecting rares, then I would tell you you need to do this and do it now. And as you can see, this enderman has put the block down. And if we destroy this one, you can see that that has converted back into a, well, now it's a dirt block because this was covering it up. So if you were trying to make this floor pattern, this enderman just set you back, because now you got to get somebody to pick this one back up or destroy it yourself and try again to get you that nice patterned flat floor that you were looking for. So this is not an easy challenge, and it is a pretty decent flex. And there you go, we picked it back up anyways. It's a pretty decent flex if you manage to get something like this into a trophy room. Also, be sure to put a roof on it, because if it snows on your block, then that obviously destroys it. You also may want to put this in a room with a too tall ceiling, so one of these sneaky guys doesn't teleport in, steal your block, and teleport away. So this is what you have to do. Now let me give a bit of a shout out here to Ray's Works. If you like rare items and rare blocks, he does a lot of videos on that. I would recommend you check him out. And in fact, I'm going to link to one of his videos where he did something like this for the grass blocks. But the grass blocks, as rare as they are, as I contend, are not as rare as the podzol version or the mycelium version. And once he sees this, I'm sure he'll make sure that's collected over on Prototech when they do their upgrade. So if you found this video helpful, I would appreciate a like. If you found it interesting, maybe even share it with one of your friends, or perhaps your favorite Minecraft YouTuber, to give them something to do, a fun project for one of their videos. And for more videos like this, even though most of my videos are more about farms, but I do these fun videos sometimes, do be sure to subscribe. Thanks for stopping by.